All right, before the Texans' final practice of the week, I have three interesting things, some more important than others, about this matchup on Sunday with the Jags, including an awkwardly hilarious moment with CJ Stroud that I think is even more funny when you kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. Got you covered every morning on the SNL collaboration and nightly 10:30 with the Locker Room live stream videos throughout the day. Let's start with something that impacts what goes on the field the most. And we've given a lot of focus locally, rightfully so, to the Tank Dell injury, which we'll get to in a sec. DeMeco Ryans had an interesting defense. But we've talked about Tank Dell and Nico Collins being a little bit banged up. But Evan Ingram going to be out for the Jags on Sunday. And this is a huge deal for the Jags. I think Evan Ingram is the type of guy that could perhaps take advantage of some of the weaknesses of this Texans defense. We really haven't seen To'o forced in coverage too much. Azeez Al-Shaair, there have been times where it seems like maybe he's been taken advantage of early in the season. And then Jalen Petrie, we just saw him pick up a penalty that put the ball on the 1 yard line the other day. And we know about his coverage issues. Evan Ingram, this is a game that Jacksonville needs. This could be the end of the Doug Peterson era if they lose this game. And this is a really Jacksonville. I know it's early. This is Jacksonville trying to keep their season alive, and they're going to be without Evan Ingram. Now, I thought this stat I've mentioned many times when talking about the Jags, just because I think it's incredible. But Evan Ingram last season, he was fourth in the NFL in receptions. Fourth. There were three receivers in the entire NFL that had more catches than Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram. Those guys were CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's the list. So the Jags being without Evan Ingram, it is significant, especially given the fact where they are and what they need. And it's also significant given what the Texans defense is potentially weak at and how he would be able to take advantage. So that is huge. That's thing number one. And that one impacts what goes on the field, as does thing number two, Tank Dell. He was injured on Sunday late in the game. This is the second season Tank Dell's been in the NFL. Second season, he's missed some time. We don't know how significant the time will be. But I asked DeMeco Ryans about Tank Dell's status. I also kind of asked him, it was under 5 minutes left in a game. He was out there. Looked like maybe he ran into a camera or something like that. Then he caught a couple passes. Who knows? We'll get his status today at practice. And we got the full SNL final injury report practice reaction at 4 p.m. We normally go at 9 a.m. from Tuesday to Thursday, reaction Monday. But after the final injury report, we go live at 4 p.m. But here was what DeMeco Ryans had to say about Tank Dell's injury. And I do find something very interesting about the brief history of Tank Dell that I want to get into. But first, let's hear my interaction with DeMeco Ryans earlier this week about Tank Dell.
Do you have any information on Tank Dell?
Tank will be day-to-day. We'll see how he continues to progress.
Is there any concern about having someone like Tank out there late in a game and the injury happening?
No concern for me. Injuries can happen at any given time. What if the injury happened first play of the game? Should he be out there? We can't control when injuries happen. Guys are going to go play. That's part of our game, part of the nature of the business. When you play this game, unfortunately, injuries happen. Nobody can predict when injuries happen or when a guy should be in, shouldn't be in.
Can you talk about what you said?
All right.
I know you talked about.
I get what DeMeco is saying. You just heard Greg Bailey's voice. You're going to hear that again. Perhaps the most hilarious moment of the year. And I don't know if it's going to be topped featuring the face of the franchise and a local media type. Here's the thing about Tank Dell's injuries that I do find interesting. I get what DeMeco's saying. I don't think it's the same thing to have a guy out there in a 4-score game with under 5 minutes left getting injured as opposed to the first play. I think I don't want to call it gaslighting, but I don't think that's the same thing. I do get what he's saying though. And a lot of starters play late into NFL games. It's not college where you have 90 or whatever guys available. They do play. So I do get that. But there's been an interesting theme when it comes to Tank Dell injuries the last couple of years. And look, that was just a talking point among fans. So sometimes you bring talking points among fans to coaches. I do think having Tank Dell out there is interesting. But the other thing that I think is wild is that it seems like in Tank Dell's two injuries, his two big injuries, there's almost been like some sort of like blame for why Tank Dell got hurt. Last year, I completely rolled my eyes at this, but there was a large portion of people that said Tank Dell shouldn't be close to the line of scrimmage blocking. What are they doing with a wide receiver of Tank Dell's size being out there blocking and getting rolled up on? Although that happens all the time because it was Tank Dell. It was, well, DeMeco shouldn't have him blocking that close to the line of scrimmage. Now, in a league where we see it all the time and we see a lot of star players playing in blowouts just because of how rosters are and all that, it's, well, should Tank Dell have been out there? Maybe just the questions about, and it's early, but injuries do happen. Maybe the questions about, Tank Dell's size and being able to hold up, maybe that's more of a thing, because it does seem like, and I'm not sitting here, I'm not generalizing, but I interact with a lot of Texans fans. Last year, it was a popular talking point. I think DeMeco even got asked about it, as did Bobby. Should Tank Dell have been blocking? And now, he's in late in the game. Maybe it's just kind of a concern when someone that size is playing the game, and maybe that's just what we're seeing, or maybe it's just the way the game goes, and maybe DeMeco's right. Let me know what you think. Most hilarious. Let's end this with some comedy. So we've had some embrace debate. We've had some, man, this is going to really impact Sunday. This was one of my most hilarious moments in press conference history. And I think when you pull back the curtain, it's even funnier. So we saw what happened with the Texans on Sunday in Minnesota. They had a lot of penalties, and there were multiple times where CJ Stroud would clap and the ball wouldn't be snapped when he would clap. So as CJ Stroud went to the podium, the most harmless media type in town, Greg Bailey, one of the nicest guys in the world, sometimes a little bit of awkward humor, but Greg Bailey told a joke as CJ Stroud came to the podium. And maybe Greg was firing a shot, but CJ Stroud, you're going to see him come to the podium. He's saying, let's go. He's kidding around. And Greg Bailey tries to make a joke. CJ, you should clap to start the press conference. Now, I don't know if Greg was trying to make the joke. I don't know if CJ just misinterpreted, but it was absolute hilarity and perhaps just a perfect storm of awkwardness. Sit back, relax, enjoy the awkwardness.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
You guys let me know when you're ready out there.
Funny guy over there, huh?
All good? Okay.
You hear Greg says, clap to get the snap.
That's fine.
And then CJ, I think he thought he was.
Yeah.
You guys let me know when you're ready out there.
Funny guy over there, huh?
That is one of the funniest moments. I don't think Greg was trying to take a shot. I think it was just a bad joke at a bad time, kind of a perfect storm. CJ took it well too, either way, but it was hilariously awkward to say the least. So we have no Evan Ingram, probably no Tank Dell. How long will Tank Dell be out? Who knows? Should he have been out there? I'll let you decide. Embrace debate. And CJ Stroud, hilariously awkward moment with a media type. Appreciate y'all for coming through. I'm about to hit practice. We'll let you know what's going on once practice concludes. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. We're on the scene. And when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for joining me in the locker room. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah.